This is the Ordinary Business Podcast for business owners who want honest conversations, a lean business, and an extraordinary life on their own terms. Rhianna, what is your favorite, self-care item in your house?
I have a couple. So, I love my adjustable bed, and I know that sounds odd as like a self-care item, but it has been life-changing for how I sleep, but also how I nap and all the things. And I have a red light sleeping bag. That's like my favorite thing ever.
Okay, I might have to ask you about that later.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yes. Okay, so we are talking today just how you kind of navigate and juggle living with chronic illness and run a business. So thank you for sharing your story and your insights today. But before we do that, can you introduce yourself and tell us about what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Rhianna, aka the Chronic CEO on socials. I am a business strategist and success coach for entrepreneurs with chronic illness, disabilities, limited capacity, limited energy, and I am also the chief operating officer for the Empower Network, which is a nonprofit that helps people in our community as well.
So important. Okay, to get started, can you share what does an average day look like for you when it's kind of an iffy health day?
I try not to schedule any day before 9 a.m. just as a standard because I know if I'm not going to feel good, I'm going to know usually around 7 a.m. So I like to just as a standard, give myself that buffer. But on iffy days, I will take a look at my schedule and figure out what can I push out. What absolutely has to be done today, especially when it comes to meetings, because, there's a lot going on with my business and some changes right now, but also with the Empower Network as we grow. So kind of looking at that and saying, okay, this I can actually move to next week. This has to be done today. And then I give myself lots of breaks. I just recently I actually got my piano yesterday. So that's really exciting. So I'll stop and kind of maybe play. Yesterday I'd stop and play, or I will give myself a break and go work on my puzzle for a little bit just to give my brain a moment to recalibrate, because brain fog is one of my biggest symptoms besides my physical pain. And then I just listen to my body. If my body's like, yo, we're done. We are absolutely done for the day. I'm just like, you know what? I'm it. That's it. I'm going to go lay down. That was hard for me to learn. And it took years of practice, which sounds crazy when I say it out loud, but especially as somebody that's a chronic doer, and I have severe ADHD, so my brain never stops. The taking a rest in the middle of the day was probably the hardest one for me to really create a habit out of.
Yeah, and I feel like for me, sometimes breaks, I'm like, oh, but I'm in such a good flow of
Yep.
working on this. And it's if I take a break, it's going to be harder to come back. But then sometimes I am like, oh, I actually feel better after taking a nap.
Yeah.
Instead of it feeling like I'm pulling 100 pounds trying to get this work done. So how have you had to adjust your schedule or systems, specifically around your business, compared to, I don't know, 5-7 years ago to what it looks like
Yeah.
now?
7 to 10 years ago, Rhianna was like, what the hell? I was just in constant panic mode all the time because I didn't have automations and I didn't have workflows. I think that's number one, automate everything that you can. And I always tell my clients, you didn't go into business unless you're a social media manager. You didn't go into business to be an expert in social media or to be an expert in accounting or bookkeeping or all of these other in the weeds things. You have a very specific thing that you're good at. And the less time you spend in that zone, the less happy you are with your business. And when you're not happy with your business, you're usually stressed out, which causes flare-ups, and you don't feel good. And it's this terrible cycle. So I just started looking at my business, what can I automate? what can I make more simple because I'm the queen of overcomplicating everything. I just love me a good, like, real in-depth process, which is sometimes ridiculous. And what can I get rid of? And, just making sure that I'm really focusing on the things that, my energy will allow, but getting rid of the things that, like, don't make me happy, because why am I spending my precious energy that's super limited on things that stress me out and don't make me happy?
Mhm.
It's a balance, and it's a learned, it's not something that comes naturally. It took me a couple of years of roller coaster everything to get it
Yeah.
figured out.
What's something recently or, even if not super recent that, like, you're like, "This doesn't make me happy. I actually kind of hate it, and so I'm not gonna do it anymore."
Ooh, that's a really good question. Discovery calls.
Oh.
I don't do discovery calls anymore. If it's like somebody that I know really well and we're just more hopping on a chat to talk about something, fine. But a traditional discovery call, they're out the door. Like, it's asynchronous conversations. If they're going to be working with me one on one as a client, they've already gone through probably some of my other stuff. They know how I work and how I operate. So at that point, the conversation isn't really, let's get to know each other. It's, what is this going to look like? And my sales pages go through all of that. So, yeah, that was a hard one to let go, because I was like, oh, if I don't do discovery calls, nobody's going to want to work with me one on one,
Mhm. Yes.
which isn't true.
Do you do, like, voice memos or, like, voice messaging with them, or are you like, "You can email me and that is it?"
I hate email. So usually it's some sort of DM, and that's
Mm.
typically how they reach out to me anyways.
Yeah.
Instagram. Some people have me on Google Chat, but yeah, it's usually some sort of asynchronous, quick communication.
Now, you've mentioned automations a few times, and I know that from following you on Threads that you are very passionate about, like, AI, and
Hmm.
I would love to, like, for you just to share kind of, like, why it's important for people with chronic illness to utilize
Mm.
AI and, like, for people who just haven't thought about it through that lens.
Yeah. AI changed my life and my business. And I know that sounds ridiculous. And I know that people that are listening to this that aren't a fan of AI are going to be like, that's so crazy. It truly did. Like, it helps me handle all the things that I'm not good at and I don't like to do. I'm not great at copy. Like, I was working with Emily at Pasta Queso over the last 18 months on my copy. So I'm better, but I still use AI. I've trained AI to sound like me, but AI never, like, the thing that I think is crazy is people think that people are just out there and AI is doing everything for them. And that's not how it works. AI is a tool. I like to call it an employee or an assistant. I go in with a really super messy idea, and then I let AI kind of organize my thoughts, especially with my ADHD, because I'm all over the place. Like, my thoughts are just kind of blah. It's like word vomit.
Mhm.
And so it kind of very quickly helps me make sense. But what I found is that I can go from idea to execution 1,000 times faster. And it's allowed me to be able to do more things that I'm passionate about instead of just dreaming about them for many years in a row. But I feel like it's important because, again, we're limited energy, and we have, our energy bank is only so full. Why are we spending it on things that are, not generating revenue, that are not, relating to clients or what exactly it is that we're doing? And AI can really help take some of those things off your plate in a way that's not overwhelming. Also, I would love to encourage anybody listening to this that's on the fence with AI to do their research about, how AI is impacting the environment and how that compares to other things that we're using on a daily
Mhm.
basis. In fact, I do have a really great link that I think would be awesome. If you want to share it, I can give it to you. But
Yes.
it's a big study on, or not study, but a big report on, AI and how it compares to everything else that we're using and the actual impact. And it's very factual. It has, cited sources and all that. And I think it's great. But, it's a balance. Everything's a balance.
Yeah, some people, they don't wanna use it for whatever reason, even if it's not
Yeah.
the environment and whatever, like, I've heard other people just and their reasons, and that's totally fine, but I think for those with chronic illnesses, like, it is a very, very helpful resource.
Yeah.
And it's just like we're all juggling and dealing with different things and different complex issues. So um, I just love anytime I see those threads and you're like, hey, like y'all aren't thinking about this from like this perspective. Then the other thing I wanted to talk about, because obviously, like you said, we're juggling lots of things even outside of our business. And when you and I were talking about you coming on the podcast, you had just posted a reel about like a few things that you kind of do around your house that also help you as someone with chronic illness. So I'm curious if you just can share like a few of the habits that you have
Yeah.
yourself in your personal life that kind of help you around the house.
So one of the biggest things specifically for housework is I have to fit it kind of in the little nooks and crannies of my day. There are things that I really want to get done with my business, and maybe there's some like personal things that I want to get done outside of like housework and like keeping my household running. So I have to be okay with just, setting a timer and doing 15 or 20 minutes of one thing. Also keeping myself focused on the thing that I'm doing. I mean, I am 45 years old and it is still a practice every single day. I will never perfect that and I just have to be okay with that. But I try my best to, if, for instance, I'm cleaning the kitchen, I try not to squirrel away into the bedroom or the laundry room or the office or
Mm-hmm.
whatever else, or, oh, squirrel, I need to go work on this arts and crafts thing that I want to do. Like, it's crazy. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then just letting go of the expectation that you have to do everything. Like, unless your house is going to burn down because of it, like, is it really? I mean, it's a want. Like, I want my house to be perfectly clean all the time, but it's not realistic. If I got out of bed today and I brushed my teeth, I am celebrating that because I might not feel good enough to do anything else. So it's the same thing, with housework is yay. Instead of I only got this done, it's yay, I'm excited I got this thing done. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a mindset shift that takes practice.
Yes. And one of the other things that you mentioned in your reel was like picking the easiest win first.
If it's put a dish in the sink and it's just one dish, like whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of stacking that way, especially on low energy days. Like I'll pick three things, and sometimes that's get out of bed, brush my teeth, and read a book. Or
Mm-hmm.
if I have house things to do and I'm feeling a little bit better, then I'm like, okay, if I get these three things done today, yay! Like, and
Mm-hmm.
it could be just very singular things.
This episode is sponsored by Melissa at Not Another VA. Stop guessing and start growing your email list today. Not Another VA is offering a free 40-minute training video on attracting and converting your ideal subscribers. Get access now at notanothervirtualassistant.com or check the show notes for a link. Okay, so with you talking about the three things, that also reminds me of like when my mom passed, was going through a lot of grief. And I know this is not chronic illness, but it just reminded me, like, I was like, I just need like three things I can do today. Like respond to an
Yeah.
email, do this, do that. I'm curious if you also take the 3-item thing also in work. Is your 3-item list like just personal, or do you also like have that for once you get to your desk as well? And
Yeah.
you're like, okay, 3 things to do today.
Always.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day.
Yeah.
If I only do these three things. And I think for me, I've had to train myself in that way because our bodies are so unpredictable. I could feel great one moment and literally 5 minutes later, I feel like I'm dying. And
Mm.
so it's like if I can just get, these three things done, and usually they're the quickest wins, the most simple things to do. Or maybe I'll do like two quick and simple things and one that's a little more complicated. It just really depends on how I feel. If I can get these three things done today, I have accomplished everything that I wanted to do. And that really helps to train your brain not to beat yourself up for not doing all the things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'd love to do all the things. It's just not possible. And we should stop beating ourselves up about it.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious also, I'm assuming that you have, and maybe you also help your clients with like communicating boundaries or like expectations, and how do you handle that?
Yeah. So I'm a lot better with this with clients than I am with myself. Because sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I'll have that done on Friday, and I will talk about it on social, and then I'm like, what am I thinking? But with my clients, this is my favorite topic. So I always have the conversation up front. Like when we're in the very early, you've signed the contract phase of, working together, and I create a backup plan with them before we start anything. If I have a flare up, this is what we're going to do. And we'll come up with that
Mm.
backup plan together, how we're going to communicate it. What steps are we going to take? What are we going to do if it's just a basic thing and it's not that big of a deal? What are we going to do if it's like mid-launch or, something that's very critical? So that way, when that thing happens, if it does, we're not like, panicking,
Mhm.
because that's where everything falls apart. So that, 98% of my clients now have chronic illness. So we kind of get it. But even when I was working with clients pre the chronic CEO, just setting that up in that way was really helpful. And then I'm pretty strict about my time boundaries and when I work and when I don't. And, I'm a very set it and forget it kind of person. And I tell my clients this all the time. If you want to communicate with me 24/7, I don't care. Just know that this is the times that I'll be getting back to you. So they know what to expect, and just being really clear, in that communication. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it was very uncomfortable, I would say, in the beginning stages of my business,
Mm.
pre the chronic CEO 10 years ago, talking about my chronic illness, because I was so fearful that my clients were going to see me as less than or not capable or as a risk, because what happens if she has a flare up and she can't follow through with the thing? So, having those conversations, being open, really helped, because most of the time they were also struggling with some sort of health issue, and it just,
Mhm.
happened to work out that way. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just being communicative and making sure you're chatting about all the things.
Yeah. I think I've said this in other episodes, but I wish that in the online space we were more realistic about just life. Like
Yeah.
whether it's kids are homesick or chronic illness or the power goes out or whatever
Yeah.
it is. And I know there are plenty of people who are like that. And I do think, yes, there's a time and place for the contract and the boundaries and the late fees or whatever. I'm not saying we just don't need any of that. We absolutely do. But my most recent client, when she sent me a testimonial, part of it was I really loved how flexible Jess was, because I had a kid homesick and I was worried that I such and such, and the feedback, and it was just she really understood that I'm also a mom. And I was like, well, yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm also a mom. like
Yeah.
I
Truly.
I'm sending you a Slack message as I'm okay, I gotta go get in the school pickup line. I'll be back in a little while. And so I wish that there was a little bit more flexibility and grace for hey, we're all still humans. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean you can just be okay with not getting what you paid for. That's not what I'm saying. But I just, as I've also said and had other guests say, none of this is an emergency.
None of it.
This isn't heart surgery. This is
Yep. And I have also made it a big practice in my business that I it's not that I don't tolerate a lot from my clients, but if my clients are continuously not respecting my boundaries, um, pushing on, scope creep, if it's something that's more of a done with you situation, or that they're not being understanding and flexible, they're not my people. And it's
mm,
just better for both of us to just let the relationship go. And there's no hard feelings. There's nothing wrong with that. But I have stuck it out with clients in the past that I wish I would have just not. Um, and it ended up being really awful and throwing me into very long periods of flare up where I couldn't do anything in my business.
mm,
And I wish that I would have known better then. And so now it's if I'm getting tons of pushback from a client, one of the big things that I Not necessarily require, but I ask of my clients is I want them to be open to trying a multitude of different things because clearly you came to me because whatever you're doing now is not working. So
Mhm.
let's try different things because we could try one thing and maybe it's kind of a fit, but we could try two or three other things. And in that, you find, oh, there's this other thing that absolutely fits. And if I have clients that are not willing to do that, I feel like that's just a boundary for me. Like that's not a good fit because I don't feel like they're getting the most out of their money.
Mhm.
And they're not doing themselves a service, but some people aren't comfortable with that, and that's okay. That's
Yes.
completely okay. So just being kind of like personality-wise and kind of what I expect from my clients and also kind of setting those boundaries as well is something that I never really put too much thought into, but as the years have gone on, it's like, again, an energy bank thing. Like, where am I spending my energy? I want to spend my energy with clients that are like, let's try all the things. Let's see what works best because they're going to get the best result at the end of the day.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, things I don't think about.
Yes. Okay, so my last question to wrap up. I'm curious if there's anything that you've learned from yourself living this way that's actually, like, helped you become better at business or made you a better business owner?
I have learned that I have a really bad habit of overcommitting, and we kind of talked about this earlier with myself. And like, I can do that, and it can be done tomorrow by end of business. Why do I do that? So, that's a constant work in progress, and I'm, constantly aware that I do that, and I'm getting better. But I also know that I'm a big perfectionist, so actively letting go of perfection and constantly reminding myself the things that I tell my clients, which is like do it messy and done is better than perfect and all of these fun little things that we say, like I need to practice what I preach.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of learning that I am being aware of these things about myself and then learning how to let them go, I think has been big for me because that then in turn, I'm not beating myself up about the things that I can't get to because of whatever, health issues
Mhm.
or, energy levels or whatever that is.
Mhm. 100%. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing some of your story. Where can we connect with you online to learn more about what you
Yeah.
do?
Well, thank you for having me. thechronicCEO.co is my website, at the Chronic CEO on all of my socials. Um, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Awesome. I will link to that in the show notes so you all can go connect with her. But thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much.